I'm Nikki, this is Max, and you're watching Max's Mom's Creations. So I don't know if I've ever told you this before, but Max is actually my first dog ever. I grew up in a cat family. We always had cats, but to us dogs were smelly, slobbery, loud animals, and we could never understand why anyone would want one. Well then, Charlie, my husband, he retired, and he was going to be home all day alone while I went to work. And while we did have 4 cats at the time, he's like, the cats don't really need me. I need someone here that needs me. So we went to a friend's house for Thanksgiving and came home with a dog. Yeah, I wasn't really sure at first, but the cats didn't seem to mind. I mean, he was only this big and they were this big, so they went over, sniffed him, and walked away. And, you know, he ended up being pretty cuddly, so I guess, all right, we can keep the dog. But what do we feed him? So I started working at the pet store, and they trained us to ask these 8 specific questions. When people would come in and need a food for their dog, they trained us the questions to ask. And I thought, you know, I really wish there had been somebody there to ask me these questions when I was trying to pick out his food. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to pass them on to you. Hopefully they'll help you pick a good food for your pet. So first question, what breed is your dog? We all know that different breeds have different issues depending on their size, and some of them have some predispositions towards certain problems, like with Dachshunds and with German Shepherds tend to have like back issues and joint issues. And there's this supplement, it's a glucosamine and chondroitin. It actually helps to lubricate the joints and everything. And a lot of dog food companies will put this right into the food, so your dog is just getting that benefit throughout. Second question, how old is your dog? I think we all kind of know that puppies need a little bit more protein than older dogs. Puppies actually need 20 to 25% of their calories to come from protein, whereas adult dogs really only need about 18%. But did you know that large breed puppies actually, too much protein can be more harmful than not enough? They still need more protein than their adult counterparts, but too much protein can actually cause an imbalance between the calcium and phosphorus levels in their body, which can actually leach some of the calcium out of their bones and cause their bones to actually become more brittle, more weak. So then when they do get to be full grown, full weight, their frame has more trouble holding that up, so they can have joint or bone issues. Third question, how big is your dog? Now, small dogs like Max have really small little mouths, small stomachs, and a very short intestinal tract. So their foods tend to be smaller size kibbles so they can get them chewed up easier, a more easily digestible food, and one that's a little bit more concentrated, so that in that little bit of food they're getting a little bit more of the protein and energy that they need. Bigger dogs, of course, bigger mouths, bigger stomachs, larger intestinal tracts, so their foods are usually bigger kibbles, so that they have to actually crunch into those kibbles. Gives them a little bit more satisfaction. It's going to be where they can eat a little bit higher volume, so they actually feel a little bit fuller when they're finished eating. Fourth question, how active is your dog? Now, if your dog is running around and crazy and has all kinds of energy and everything, then they're going to need a little bit more protein than Max, who I think he thinks he's half cat. I think he sleeps pretty much half his day away, so he doesn't really need quite as many calories. And really, we just keep track of his weight to make sure that he's getting enough food, enough calories to keep him going, but he's pretty much a lap dog and pretty much a sleepy guy, so yeah, he doesn't really need to eat that much. Fifth question, does your dog have any allergies? The top 5 allergens for dogs are, in order, beef, dairy, wheat, eggs, and chicken. And a lot of that is because once a dog owner gets their dog on a food, they tend to just stick with the same food and just feed that food every day, every meal, year after year. And after a certain amount of time of exposure to this one type of protein or this one type of carb, your dog can actually develop an allergy to that product. So that's why a lot of vets suggest that you have 2, 3, 4 different brands or different foods, different proteins that you go back and forth between so that your dog isn't oversaturated with any one and doesn't develop these kind of allergies. Unfortunately, what happens is once your dog becomes allergic to one kind of food, they tend to much more quickly become allergic to whatever you put them on next. And then they become allergic to the next thing. I've had people come in with lists from their vets of all the foods that their dogs are allergic to. And so we have to search through the store trying to find a food that doesn't have all of these things in it. One thing that a lot of pet food companies are doing right now is they're coming up with what they call limited ingredient diets. And you'll see on the label, it'll say LID. What that is there's only one type of protein and usually a 1 or 2 types of carbs, things that your dog might become allergic to, so that it limits their exposure to all of these different ones. Another thing that we do is we have to just look for unique protein sources. And my go-to was, again, Natural Balance was a dog food company that I would go to for this because they had a lot of very unique meat sources. They had venison, they had bison, they had wild boar, and they even came out with kangaroo. So a lot of American dogs have never been exposed to a lot of these proteins before, especially kangaroo. So they hadn't developed allergies to them yet. So I would get the customers on those and we'd find 3 or 4 that their dog tolerated and we'd just rotate between them so that their dogs didn't become oversaturated and then become allergic to those. Because once they're allergic to those, I'm not sure where we go. 6th question. By the way, yeah, I don't know if I ever told you this before, but I used to be an American Sign Language interpreter. That's the number 6, just so you know. Anyway, 6th question is, does your dog have any other health concerns? Do they have liver issues or kidney issues or even teeth issues can affect what food that we would recommend for them? Along with this question, I would include obesity. Now I would include underweight dogs too, but this is the United States. We don't have underweight dogs. They're all pretty pudgy, just like their mamas. But we do have some foods that are really awesome to help dogs to lose their weight. There's one food that I would always recommend. I would always tell customers it's a really great food with a really unfortunate name. It's called Fat Dog. It's by Natural Balance again. I just really like the way they formulate the food so that it still has all the nutrients and the protein your dog needs to still be active. But I've seen amazing results. I've had customers come back in just amazed that their dogs actually like the food and they were actually losing weight on it. So that's a dog food that I've recommended for years. And remember a few videos ago I mentioned that we talk about poop a lot? Well, we're about to talk about poop. You have to watch your dog, and if you notice that your dog is straining to go poop, and you actually have to look at the poop too, if you notice that it's really hard or if you notice that it's really runny, these are all issues that could be related to either the fiber in their diet or moisture level in their diet, things like that. There are a lot of ingredients that manufacturers put into their dog foods that can help with these issues. 2 of my favorites are either sweet potatoes or pumpkin. Those both you'll see in dog foods, and both of them kind of work in a similar way, that they have a good amount of fiber to them, but they also have that bulk that's going to help to push things through their digestive system. So that's a good one. If your dog tends to have issues with their digestion, you might want to look at a food that contains prebiotics, probiotics. Those help to maintain your dog's gut health. They just help with that digestion. They help all of the bacteria that live in your dog's stomach actually have food that keeps them alive, so then they can help to break down the food for your dog. One recommendation, if your dog does tend to have digestive issues, it's another one by Natural Balance, but it's called Synergy, and it's specifically made for dogs that have these digestive issues. So that's a really good one to check out. The 7th question we would ask is, does your dog have any taste preferences? Now, you know your dog, and you know the foods that the minute you put it down, they gobble it up. And you know the one that you pour it in their bowl and it sits there until they get hungry enough that, okay, they're gonna go eat it. You know if your dog prefers wet food, dry food, you know all of these things. So when we're picking out their food, make sure that we take their tastes into account as well. And the 8th question is, what are your preferences? Now, you're the pet parent, so a lot of how you raise your dog is going to be your decisions, and it's going to depend on your lifestyle. Do you not have a lot of time? Are you really busy, so you just need a good, healthy food you can pour in the bowl that they're going to eat and everything's going to be good? Great, let's find you that food. Are you the pet parent who really believes that your dog should have raw ingredients, but you just don't have time to go out and source all the raw ingredients and do all the prep work and everything and get it all ready? Great, we can find a product for you too. Or maybe you're a vegetarian and you really have a feeling that your dog should be a vegetarian too. Well, believe it or not, you can do that too. There are a lot of reputable, good dog food companies, yes, Natural Balance included, that have vegetarian formulas, so you can do that. Or maybe you're the person that wants to make homemade dog food. You want to do it all from scratch, put in all your own ingredients so that you know what's in there. That's great. Absolutely. I am all for that. Just make sure you do the research to figure out how much protein to fat to carbs that your dog needs. And I would always suggest finding a good supplement that you feel comfortable with that gives them all those micronutrients that they really need to stay healthy. Now, all of these things I've talked about, they're all natural ways with your dog's food to try to treat some of these conditions, some of these symptoms, but by no means. I was a part-time person who worked in a pet store. Don't trust me. Research it, talk to your vet, all of those things, because your dog is more important than just listening to me. So yeah, watch your dog. If your dog seems to be in pain, is not eating, is experiencing other problems, just take them to the vet. That's most important. So I know this kind of ended up sounding like a commercial for Natural Balance, and honestly, I didn't even plan that. As I was writing this, I realized how many times I had recommended Natural Balance as a dog food to help some of these issues. Now, if your dog doesn't have any of these issues, then they can eat a wide variety of foods, no problem. I mean, Max doesn't even eat Natural Balance. Max eats Merrick and Wellness right now. Those are the 2 foods that he eats. So he doesn't even need that. But if your dog does have any of these issues, that really narrows the kind of foods that your dog should be eating. And it just so happens Natural Balance is a dog food company that has put a lot of research into finding natural solutions to some of these issues, or natural helps anyway to some of these issues. So it just ended up that way, that it's a food that it was my go-to on more than one occasion. So I think that's it for this week. If you like this, if you enjoyed this, give me a thumbs up, hit the subscribe and the little bell to be notified when we go live. And if there's anything that you have questions about or anything, definitely put some notes in the comments and I'll reply to them. So for this week, from Max and I, we want to say, go make today an adventure and take your best friend with you too. Thanks, y'all. Bye.